Meat isn't murder if the beast died of natural causes, right? Well, that's a philosophy that allows Emma Willis, a vegan taxidermist, to sleep at night. There are a number of vegetarians and vegans that are learning taxidermy. And although they make it very clear the animals that they work on must not be killed for the purpose of taxidermy, and some see it as an opportunity to preserve nature or making something creative out of what is normally wasted, what are the actual moral standpoints of this? It's a strange one, isn't it? Well, a strange one for some anyway. Now, our Deputy Director, Justin Kerswell, went on 3 Counties Radio to speak to the host of the show in response to an interview between Emma Willis, a vegan taxidermist, and the host. Here's what was said.
We're going to meet Emma Willis. She's 32 and she's a vegan. She's also a taxidermist. Now, her taxidermy has been getting an awful lot of attention in the press and online as she's created a range of sporrans made from the bodies and faces of dead roadkill like badgers, foxes and hares. Well, not everyone appreciates her work, and she admits she has received something of a backlash from people who think the items are in bad taste, including from some animal rights activists. Let's speak to the lady at the centre of this story. Emma Willis, good morning to you. Welcome to the JVS show.
Good morning.
Good morning. So how long have you been creating sporrans out of animals' dead faces?
I started probably a year and a half ago, maybe. I went to a taxidermy class and that kind of spiraled from there. The actual sporrans, I think I probably started about 2 Octobers ago. We'd have been about right.
And what gave you the idea? I mean, most of us, when we see roadkill at the side of the road, our reaction is, ugh.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I kind of felt that, you know, as a taxidermist, I don't want to source my animals from, you know, I certainly wouldn't go out and hunt them myself. I wouldn't source them from places that had trapped them or, you know, fur farmed them. I just find that absolutely disgusting. But for me, roadkill is something, it's already there. You know, they died, unfortunately. They did die, you know, of their own accord, unfortunately. And I felt like it was a resource for taxidermy that gave me less guilt over where my animals came from, whilst also allowing me to do something I enjoy.
I'm just looking at the photo here. I've just tweeted this link. So the sporran has, it looks like the kind of the head part of the animal, the head and the shoulders.
Yeah.
So you then create that. Why would anybody want to wear that, though? I mean, I'm looking at this collection of men who are wearing your sporrans with, that looks like a fox. There's a badger there as well. What are some of the... Oh, there's a rabbit.
There's a pine marten. There's also a Patagonian mara.
Right. Why would anybody want to have the head of a dead animal, though, hanging from their groin?
Why would anyone want to wear a leather jacket? You know, why would you want to wear leather shoes? Why would you want to eat a cow? It's just something that, I mean, sporrans with faces are actually one of the first sporrans. The very kind of, you know, the oldest sporrans you'll see are the badger head military ones that you get.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Leather jackets, for example, don't look like animals. They look like a leather jacket. I mean, you don't generally find people walking around with a dead badger sticking out of their top pocket, or...
No, but it is still a dead animal, and I think people are very squeamish about that fact, that if I remind you that the shoes you're wearing were once a cow, it makes people kind of squeamish, and I think people should be kind of squeamish about it. You know, it's become so mainstream. People wear dead animals all the time. And people get upset because mine still have faces. But in reality, I've tanned the leather, I've skinned it. Somebody still had to skin a cow to make your leather jacket. A cow died so that your leather jacket could exist. Based on
what you do, though, I mean, where do you draw the line? If you saw a dead cat at the side of the road, would you consider making that into a sporran, or would you say, no, that's obviously someone's pet, I'm not going to do anything with that?
No, I haven't really encountered... the last time I found a dead cat, I actually took it to the vet to get microchip scanned and left it there. So, no, it's not something I would probably do, just in case it was somebody's pet.
Muntjac deer?
A deer? No. Yeah, occasionally we do find deer, but again, if they're wild, I feel that nobody's going to be missing them, you know, so...
As a vegan, how can you bring yourself to do it, you know, I presume you have to cut their heads off?
No, you can just take the skin off and everything stays intact. There's no innards to deal with. But
most people who don't like meat or meat products would find it impossible to skin an animal, whether it's dead or alive. They'd feel squeamish about it. How can you do this?
For me, the reason I gave up meat wasn't because I'm squeamish about dead things. I gave up meat because I don't like farming practices. I don't like knowing that animals are raised and, you know, hurt for people to eat. I don't feel it's necessary for people to breed animals when we've got other food alternatives, you know, whereas if I suppose if I'd been someone that really liked meat a lot, I suppose, you know, roadkill or animals that died of natural causes wouldn't bother me, but unfortunately I never really liked meat anyway, so...
Emma, stay there. I want to bring Justin Kerswell in, who's the Deputy Director of Viva, an animal rights charity. I'm interested to see what Justin makes of this. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Morning. So does this sound like, you know, that, I mean, the animals have died anyway because of cars. It's not like Emma's going out and killing them. It's not as if she's farming the animals and giving them a terrible life before she does this. So does that make it all okay?
Well, I think you touched on something that kind of concerns us. I mean, one of the things I personally wouldn't wear them. I don't think many vegans would. You know, I can appreciate the art, if in inverted commas, but to me they are somehow undignified. And I think part of being a vegan is not using animals in any context. Having said that, I mean, I do agree with a lot of what Emma's saying, and when she's drawing attention to our use of animal products, you know, universally. I mean, you were talking about how squeamish people would be the idea of, you know, killing an animal and gutting them and doing all these things for taxidermy. But of course, we essentially, if we eat meat or any animal product, we pay someone essentially through the price we pay at the supermarket to kill animals for us. So we're very much removed from that kind of brutality. I do think there is an issue, potentially, you did touch on this, about popularising wildlife. And once something becomes a fashion, and we've seen this with certain things, like, for instance, wild animals, like the kangaroos in Australia, which is something that we've campaigned on and worked with Australian wildlife groups, where they've popularised and turned a wild animal into an industry. And any industries, capitalist industries, based on growth, the idea of growth. And so when you have that, and you have a finite amount of animals, and the difference between a kangaroo, for instance, and a cow is there's no difference morally between killing a kangaroo and killing a cow, but the difference is in populations that cows and farmed animals are bred to demand, whereas wild animals have a finite number, and they're susceptible to things like disease, to shooting, as Emma's touching on, because of road deaths and all these types of things. So I'm not suggesting that what Emma's going to do is going to wipe out animals, but certainly I would be concerned if other people were going to be picking this up. It became a fashion, and you started seeing them in Topshop and all sorts of kind of things like that. It's very unlikely, but
I was going to say, I mean, there's not very many people. I mean, I wouldn't want to. I'm a meat eater, and, you know, I live in the country, and people bring me pheasants that have been killed for me to eat. I'm not particularly squeamish about these things, but I wouldn't want to walk around with a dead badger hanging from my midriff.
Well, people's fashion can take on very strange guises. I mean, if you only have to look back the last 50, 60 years, and there's some very strange fashions. I'm sure some of us have unfortunately lived with some of those, although I would say I would never... I mean, I gave up. I can remember my uncle saying to me when I was 15, when I went vegetarian, "Oh, you're wearing leather shoes." And I thought, yes, I am. So I stopped wearing leather shoes. So I made that conscious decision.
Oh, no.
Well, yes, because I wanted, you know, I was trying to be as ethical as I can. I mean, none of us are perfect.
What kind of shoes do you wear?
Well, I mean, all sorts of different shoes. I mean, I kind of wear... There's
canvas pumps.
No, I actually have got a beautiful pair of leather. Well, they're shoes that look like leather, but they're not leather.
Leatherette.
Well, they're not leatherette. They're actually breathable synthetic shoes, and they've lasted me 2 or 3 years now. Very fashionable. We live in Bristol. There's a vegan shoe pop-up in Bristol. Veganism is taking off across the country, and there's a lot more choices. So for me personally, and for a lot of vegans, they would have problems with what Emma's doing. But I believe it is a minority issue. When we kill about 1 billion animals every year in this country, and the vast majority of them are factory farmed, living in terrible conditions. We keep on hearing that Britain has the best animal welfare in the world. That's simply not true. We film on factory farms across the country. We see awful conditions. So at least you could say at least these animals are having a natural life, whereas most animals that people eat and are very much divorced from the reality of what happens to them across the country don't. They're killed at a very young age and never see daylight. So there's a bigger issue out there, and I think if people are squeamish about this, but they're still wearing wool, leather, silk, and fur, and other animal products, to think, yes, Emma was right, they did have a face once. So if this makes you squeamish, then ask yourself some questions. And it's very easy to live cruelty-free these days, so why not give it a go?
Justin, thank you very much indeed. Justin Kerswell is the Deputy Director of Viva, an animal rights charity.